The sensor readings made no sense. Officer Prin tapped the display 3 times, hoping the numbers would change. They did not. Somewhere beyond the edge of map space, something massive had just appeared. Not gradually, not following any known physics, but instantly. One moment there was empty void. The next moment there was a contact larger than anything in the Coalition database. Commander Vorn studied the data with growing confusion. In his 40 years serving the Galactic Coalition, he had never seen anything like this. The Coalition prided itself on knowing every species, every ship design, every civilization within 20 systems. This vessel matched nothing in their records. "Send standard identification request," Vorn ordered. His voice carried the calm authority of someone who had never encountered real danger. The Coalition existed in perfect peace. Disputes were settled through committees. Weapons were ceremonial decorations. The idea that someone might actually refuse cooperation seemed absurd. The communication officer transmitted the greeting in 17 languages. Minutes passed with no response. Around the bridge of the flagship, crew members exchanged uncertain glances. The Trill species had dominated Coalition commerce for 8 centuries through superior technology and natural business sense. Their reptilian features showed little emotion, but Vorn could sense the unease spreading through his officers. "Deploy the fleet in standard containment formation," Vorn commanded. 47 Coalition vessels moved into position, forming a loose sphere around the coordinates where the unknown ship had appeared. Each vessel activated its deterrence shields, generating a pale blue glow that was more for show than actual defense. The Coalition had not fought a war in living memory. Their technology focused on efficiency, trade, and comfort. Military protocols existed only as historical tradition, performed during ceremonies and parades. No one truly believed they would ever need them. "Visual confirmation achieved," the sensor operator announced. The main display flickered to life, showing the mysterious vessel for the first time. Vorn felt his breath catch. The ship was enormous, easily 3 times the size of his flagship. But size alone was not what disturbed him. The design was all wrong. Where Coalition vessels featured smooth curves and elegant lines, this ship was brutal angles and dark plating. Strange symbols covered the hull, glowing with faint orange light. Weapons bristled from every surface, not the polished decorative kind the Coalition mounted, but crude protruding barrels that looked disturbingly functional. "Can we identify the species?" Vorn asked. The science officer studied her instruments, confusion clear on her scaled face. "No match in any database, Commander. The alloy composition is unknown. The power signature is beyond our measurement capability. We cannot even determine their propulsion system." "Perhaps they are refugees," Prin suggested. "A lost colony ship from some distant region." Vorn nodded slowly. That would explain the unusual design and the apparent isolation. Transmit friendship protocols. Offer assistance and medical aid. The communication officer worked her console, sending messages across multiple frequencies. For several minutes, nothing happened. The dark ship hung in space, silent and motionless. Coalition crews watched their displays, waiting for some acknowledgement. Then a single word appeared on every screen simultaneously. The letters were sharp, precise, rendered in perfect galactic standard despite coming from a supposedly unknown species. "Leave." Vorn stared at the message. Leave. No one told the Coalition to leave. They were the authority here, the established power, the keepers of order. This region of space fell under Coalition jurisdiction by ancient treaty and common agreement. "Transmit legal authority codes," Vorn ordered, his voice harder now. "Inform them they are in violation of territorial law and must submit to inspection." The message went out. Silence followed. Vorn waited, expecting compliance or at least negotiation. Every species understood the value of cooperation. Every civilization recognized the benefits of joining the Coalition system. "Commander," Prin said quietly. Perhaps we should request additional support from the Central Fleet. Nonsense, Vorn replied. We outnumber them 47 to 1. Our technology is proven over centuries. This primitive vessel poses no threat. Even as he spoke, Vorn felt doubt creeping into his thoughts. Something about the ship's confidence bothered him. The way it simply appeared without warning, the complete lack of communication protocols, the blunt single-word command. These were not the actions of refugees or traders. Move 3 vessels into close inspection position, Vorn ordered. Prepare boarding teams. If they will not cooperate voluntarily, we will enforce compliance. 3 coalition ships broke formation, approaching the dark vessel from different angles. Their crews transmitted reassurances, explaining that cooperation would result in quick release and possible trade opportunities. The coalition believed in gentle persuasion, in showing strangers the benefits of civilization. The unknown ship's exterior began to change. Panels that had seemed like simple armor plating slid open with mechanical precision. Beneath them, row after row of weapons became visible, not decorative pieces meant for parades, but massive systems that gleamed with obvious purpose. Targeting beams lanced out from the ship, painting every coalition vessel with crimson light. We have multiple weapons lock, the tactical officer reported, his voice rising with alarm. Commander, they are targeting all of our ships simultaneously. Vorn felt ice form in his chest. Simultaneous targeting of 47 vessels should have been impossible. The computational power required exceeded anything the coalition possessed. How could this single primitive ship accomplish what their entire fleet could not? A second transmission arrived, longer this time but no less blunt. The words appeared in the same sharp letters, cutting through the confusion and fear now filling coalition bridges. Final warning, you are outmatched. Withdraw immediately. Outmatched. The word hung in Vorn's mind like a dark weight. No one had called the coalition outmatched in centuries. They were the standard by which others measured themselves. They defined civilization in this region of space. Pride warred with caution in Vorn's thoughts. Retreat would mean admitting weakness before an unknown vessel. It would mean questioning 800 years of unchallenged authority. But those weapons looked far too real, far too ready. Power up the Harmony Protocol, Vorn ordered. His voice carried more confidence than he felt. Prepare to disable their systems. Show them coalition technology is not so easily dismissed. The Harmony Protocol represented the pinnacle of coalition defensive technology. Developed 3 centuries ago during the last territorial dispute, it had never failed. 47 ships would generate synchronized energy pulses, converging on a single target with enough force to overload any known power system. The target vessel would be safely disabled, crew unharmed, ready for peaceful negotiation. Charging sequence initiated, the weapons officer reported. Across the fleet, identical systems hummed to life. Blue energy crackled between ships as they linked their output into a single devastating pulse. Prin leaned closer to Vorn. Commander, we know nothing about their shielding. What if the protocol causes permanent damage? Then they should have cooperated, Vorn replied. His pride had been wounded by the casual dismissal, by the arrogant assumption that the coalition could be ordered around. Centuries of peaceful dominance had made his people confident, perhaps too confident, but backing down now would set a dangerous precedent. The charging sequence completed. Every ship reported ready status. Vorn studied the dark vessel one final time, giving them a last chance to surrender. The ship remained motionless, weapons still locked on every coalition vessel with disturbing precision. Fire, Vorn commanded. 47 beams of concentrated energy lanced through space, converging on the unknown ship from every angle. The combined power could have vaporized a small moon. The beams struck the dark hull simultaneously, creating a sphere of brilliant blue light that forced officers to shield their eyes. For 3 seconds, the energy poured into the target. Coalition crews watched their displays, waiting for the inevitable power failure, the disabled systems, the surrender. The light faded. The unknown ship hung exactly where it had been, completely unchanged. Not a single scorch mark appeared on its hull. The weapons remained locked on coalition vessels. Nothing had happened. The Harmony Protocol, 800 years of guaranteed success, had accomplished absolutely nothing. Silence filled every coalition bridge. Officers stared at impossible readings. Their most powerful weapon, the ultimate expression of coalition technology, had failed completely. Not deflected, not partially absorbed, but ignored as if it never existed. Analysis, Vorn demanded, his voice cracking slightly. The science officer's hands shook as she worked her console. Commander, the energy did not bounce off shields. It did not dissipate. The ship absorbed it. Every single unit of energy we fired simply vanished into their power systems. That is impossible. I am reading the data directly, Commander. Their ship took our attack and converted it to usable power. We just recharged their batteries. Horror spread through Vorn like cold water. They had not attacked the ship. They had fed it. Whatever species built this vessel possessed technology so far beyond coalition, understanding that their greatest weapon became a gift. A third transmission arrived, and this time the words carried an edge of finality. You have fired upon a human military vessel. This is your last opportunity to retreat. Human, the word meant nothing to coalition databases. No record of contact, no historical references, no diplomatic files. Humanity existed completely outside their knowledge, which should have been impossible. The coalition mapped everything, contacted everyone, recorded all discoveries. Send full surrender protocols, Prin urged. Commander, we cannot fight this. But Vorn's pride, wounded and desperate, made a fatal decision. If their defensive systems could not stop this vessel, perhaps overwhelming firepower could. 47 ships against 1. Surely quantity had value even against superior technology. All vessels open fire with everything, Vorn ordered. Continuous barrage until their shields fail. Warnings filled the communication channels. Other commanders protested, begged for reconsideration. Vorn ignored them all. He had spent 40 years building his reputation as the firm commander who never backed down. Retreat now would destroy everything he had achieved. The coalition fleet opened fire. Energy weapons, plasma cannons, particle beams, every offensive system designed over 8 centuries of peaceful development poured toward the human ship. The barrage was spectacular, a light show visible across 3 systems. Enough firepower to crack a planet's crust, concentrated on a single vessel. The human ship sat in the center of the storm, absorbing every shot without flinching. The weapon's fire might have been rain for all the effect it had. Coalition crews fired until their systems overheated, until ammunition stores depleted, until energy reserves ran critically low. Finally, the barrage ended. Not because Vorn ordered it, but because the ships physically could not continue. Overheated systems screamed warnings. Power levels dropped into emergency ranges. 47 exhausted vessels hung in space, having thrown everything they possessed at an enemy that remained completely undamaged. The human ship's weapons had never stopped tracking them. Throughout the entire attack, those targeting beams remained locked on every coalition vessel with perfect precision. They could have fired at any moment. They chose not to. Commander, the communication officer said, her voice barely above a whisper. We are receiving a transmission, audio and visual. Put it through, Vorn replied. He had no pride left to protect. The display changed, showing the interior of what must be the human ship's bridge. A figure sat in a central chair, relaxed and completely unbothered by the battle that just occurred. She appeared humanoid, bipedal with 2 arms, but her specific features were hard to distinguish in the dim lighting the humans apparently preferred. "I am Captain Rebecca Stone of the Terran Defense Fleet," the human said. Her voice was calm, patient, like someone explaining simple concepts to children. "You have now fired on a human vessel twice without provocation. Under normal circumstances, we would consider this an act of war." Vorn found his voice. "What do you want?" "I want you to understand what you are dealing with," Stone replied. "Your weapons are not weapons. They are tools designed by people who forgot what real danger looks like. The beam you just watched me absorb would qualify as a mining laser in human space." "That is impossible." "Watch," Stone said simply. The human ship's smallest weapon, barely visible among the larger systems, rotated toward an asteroid belt 300,000 kilometers away. A single pulse fired, barely registering on Coalition sensors. The blast crossed the distance in 2 seconds and struck a small asteroid roughly 20 kilometers behind the Coalition fleet. The asteroid ceased to exist. Not cracked, not broken, but completely vaporized. The shockwave from its destruction rocked every Coalition vessel, setting off alarms and forcing emergency stabilization. Stone's voice cut through the chaos filling Coalition bridges. "That was a point defense weapon. Its primary purpose is shooting down incoming missiles. It represents 0.02% of my ship's total offensive capability. Do you understand what I am telling you?" Vorn could not speak. The mathematics broke his mind. If that tiny weapon represented such a small fraction of their power, then the full arsenal could destroy his entire fleet thousands of times over. The Coalition had not encountered a superior force. They had attacked something so far beyond them that comparison became meaningless. "I want you to think very carefully about your next decision," Stone continued. "You opened fire on my ship without warning or cause. You are fortunate that humans value communication over immediate retaliation. Not every species in this galaxy shares that philosophy." "What are you doing in Coalition space?" Vorn managed to ask. "Passing through," Stone replied. "We detected your territory and intended to make peaceful contact at your nearest diplomatic station. You decided to intercept us with a military fleet instead. That choice is why we are having this conversation instead of exchanging pleasantries over tea." The casual mention of tea, something so mundane in the face of such overwhelming power, somehow made the situation worse. These humans could have destroyed the Coalition fleet without effort, yet they spoke about beverages. "Will you destroy us?" Prin asked, his voice shaking. Stone's expression softened slightly. "No. Humanity does not make war on people who do not understand what war actually means. You fired on us out of ignorance and pride, not malice. Those are forgivable mistakes, assuming you are willing to learn from them." Coalition officers exchanged glances. "Learn from them." What did that mean? "I am offering you a choice," Stone said. "You can power down your weapons, withdraw to a respectful distance, and allow us to continue to your diplomatic channels. Or you can continue this confrontation and discover exactly how outmatched you truly are. Which option appeals to you, Commander Vorn?" Vorn looked at his tactical display. 47 ships with depleted power, overheated weapons, and exhausted crews. One human vessel completely undamaged, weapons charged and ready. The choice was not really a choice at all. "We will withdraw," Vorn said quietly. "Excellent decision," Stone replied. "However, before you leave, you should know something. My ship is not alone." The words sent ice through Vorn's blood. Not alone. Coalition long-range sensors suddenly screamed warnings. New contacts appeared across their displays. Not one or two, but dozens. Human ships materialized from what had seemed like empty space, dropping whatever stealth technology kept them hidden. Each vessel matched or exceeded the size of Stone's ship. Each bristled with the same disturbing weapons. Each moved with the same perfect precision. 47 coalition vessels found themselves surrounded by 60 human warships. The humans had been there the entire time, watching, waiting, ready to intervene if negotiations failed. The coalition fleet had never been in control of this situation. They had walked into a trap they never saw. "You were testing us," Prin whispered. "We were evaluating you," Stone corrected. "Humans have learned to be cautious with first contact. We needed to understand what kind of species we were dealing with. Your response to unknown vessels tells us much about your civilization." "And what did you conclude?" Vorn asked. "That you are peaceful by nature but dangerously naive," Stone replied. "You wield weapons without understanding them. You project authority without backing it up with actual strength. You have grown comfortable in a safe corner of the galaxy, and forgotten that safety is not the natural state of the universe." The words stung because they were true. 800 years of peace had made the coalition soft. They maintained fleets for show, carried weapons for decoration, spoke of defense while never truly preparing for danger. And now they had encountered something real, something that revealed all their pretensions. "Why are you here?" Vorn asked again. "What do humans want?" Stone's expression grew serious. "That is a longer conversation, one that should involve your leadership rather than a fleet commander. However, I can tell you this much. Humanity is here because we discovered something disturbing, something that threatens your territory and every species living within it." "What kind of threat?" "The kind that does not care about your peace treaties or diplomatic protocols," Stone said. "The kind that views your civilization as resources to be consumed. We have been fighting them for years at the edge of your territory, preventing them from reaching your worlds. We succeeded until 3 days ago when a scouting force slipped past our lines." Coalition sensors began detecting new readings at the edge of their territory. Prin pulled up the data, analyzing the signatures. His scaled face paled. "Commander, I am reading multiple hostile contacts entering Sector 7. Unknown biological signatures. They match nothing in our databases." "Those are the scouts," Stone confirmed. "You have approximately 8 months before the main force arrives. 8 months to prepare, to learn, to build real defenses. Or you can ignore this warning and face them with the same weapons that failed against my single ship." "Who are they?" Vorn demanded. "We call them the Ravagers," Stone replied. "They are not a civilization, not a government, not a species you can negotiate with. They are a biological swarm that consumes everything in their path. Worlds, populations, entire star systems stripped clean and converted to more Ravagers. We have been holding them at bay, but they are endless and we are not." The coalition fleet hung in stunned silence. First contact with an unknown species had revealed not just one shock but many. Humans possessed overwhelming military superiority. Humans had been protecting coalition space without them knowing. And now an existential threat was coming that the coalition had no ability to fight. "What do you want from us?" Vorn asked. "An alliance," Stone said simply. "We will teach you to defend yourselves. We will stand with you against the Ravagers. In exchange, you share your technology, your resources, and your knowledge. We need allies, Commander, and whether you realize it yet or not, you desperately need us." The Coalition Council convened within hours. Representatives from 16 species filled the holographic chamber, their varied forms flickering in the projected space. Vorn stood before them, still shaken from the encounter, and explained everything that happened. The superior human technology, the casual dismissal of coalition weapons, the revelation about enemies beyond their knowledge. Several council members dismissed his report as panic or sensor malfunction. The Trill had dominated coalition politics for so long that many species had grown comfortable with their leadership. The idea that something existed beyond their understanding seemed impossible. "Request permission to transmit the sensor logs," Vorn said. "Let the council see what we faced." The data flowed through secure channels. Council members watched in silence as the recordings played, the human ship absorbing their most powerful weapon, the single shot vaporizing an asteroid, the fleet materializing from nowhere, numbers and readings that should not exist. This must be manipulated data, Council member Tevis declared. The insectoid representative's wings buzzed with agitation. No species could possess such advantages without our knowledge. Captain Stone wishes to address the Council directly, Vorn replied. She is waiting for your permission. After brief debate, the Council agreed. Stone's image appeared in the chamber, projected larger than life. She bowed respectfully, acknowledging each species present before speaking. I understand this is difficult, Stone began. First contact rarely goes smoothly, and our meeting was particularly confrontational. I apologize for the shock, but the situation requires immediate attention. You claim there is a threat to coalition space, Council Leader Dren said. The elderly Trill's scales had faded with age, but his voice remained strong. Provide evidence. Stone transmitted encrypted files directly to Council systems. What appeared shocked even the most skeptical members. Biological scan data showing organisms that should not exist. Ship designs that looked grown rather than built. Battle footage of human fleets engaged in desperate combat against endless swarms of alien vessels. We call them Ravagers because they leave nothing behind, Stone explained. They are not a species in any traditional sense. Think of them as a biological weapon that gained independence and purpose. They consume organic matter, break it down, and use it to create more of themselves. The footage showed human colonies under attack. Ravagers descended like locusts, releasing spores that dissolved buildings, vehicles, and living beings. Human ships fought back with weapons that made coalition technology look like children's toys. Even with such power, the humans struggled. How long have you been fighting them? Dren asked. 32 years, Stone replied. We discovered them when they consumed one of our outer colonies. We thought it was an isolated incident. We were wrong. The Ravagers spread like disease, jumping from system to system. We have lost 17 colonies, 900 billion people, and more ships than I can count. The numbers silenced the chamber. 900 billion. The entire coalition population was less than 2 trillion. Humanity had suffered casualties that represented half their total numbers. Why did we not detect them? Tevis demanded. Because we stopped them before they reached you, Stone said. For 3 decades, humanity has maintained a defensive perimeter at the edge of coalition space. We intercepted Ravager scouts, destroyed scouting forces, and fought battles in dead systems where no one would notice. We protected you without asking for anything in return. Why, Dren asked, why protect strangers? Stone's expression softened. Because we could. Because we know what it feels like to face extinction alone. Because preventing tragedy is better than mourning it afterward. Humanity learned hard lessons in our history. We watched civilizations fall because no one helped. We swore we would not let that happen again if we had the power to prevent it. And now, Prin asked from his position beside Vorn. Now the Ravagers have changed tactics, Stone replied. A large scouting force broke through our lines 3 days ago. They are heading directly toward coalition core systems. We destroyed most of them, but some escaped. They will report back to the main swarm. You have approximately 8 months before the full Ravager fleet arrives. New footage played across Council displays. The Ravager swarm in its full horror. Thousands of biological ships, each one capable of seeding a planet with consuming spores. The swarm moved like a single organism, coordinated and relentless. Our current weapons cannot fight this, Vorn said quietly. We tested everything against Captain Stone's ship. We failed completely. Your weapons were designed for a galaxy at peace, Stone said. They were built by engineers who never imagined real warfare. We can teach you to build better. We can show you how to fight. But time is short and the Ravagers do not negotiate. Council member Harith, a crystalline being whose species specialized in engineering, spoke up. What would this alliance require? Everything you can give, Stone replied honestly. We need your manufacturing capacity to build defensive stations. We need your medical technology to treat casualties. We need your agricultural systems to feed combined populations. We need your scientific knowledge to develop countermeasures against Ravager biological weapons. And in return, we provide military protection and training, Stone said. We teach your people to fight, to build real weapons, to defend yourselves. We share our technology where appropriate. We stand together against the Ravagers until they are defeated or until we all fall trying. The council chamber filled with heated debate. Some species wanted to accept immediately. Others feared losing their independence. A few still doubted the threat was real despite the evidence. Dren called for silence. Captain Stone, if we refuse this alliance, what will humanity do? Stone's answer was brutally honest. We will establish a defensive perimeter around our own territory and do what we can. We will save what we can save and mourn what we lose. We will not force you to accept our help, but I will tell you this. When the Ravagers come, when they start dissolving your cities and consuming your populations, you will wish you had listened. By then it will be too late. The chamber fell silent. Vorn looked at the faces around him, seeing fear and uncertainty and growing realization. The coalition had lived in comfortable ignorance, protected by luck and geography rather than strength. That protection had ended. I vote to accept the alliance, Vorn said suddenly. Vorn's declaration carried weight. He had faced the humans directly, had seen their power firsthand. His vote influenced others who respected his experience. Slowly, other council members added their support. Not all agreed, but enough did to form a majority. The alliance treaty took shape over 3 days of intense negotiation. Coalition lawyers tried to protect their sovereignty and independence. Human negotiators pushed for rapid military integration. Compromises emerged that satisfied neither side but gave both what they needed. The final agreement established clear terms. Humans would provide military training, defensive technology, and strategic coordination. The coalition would contribute manufacturing capacity, medical research, and resource allocation. Most importantly, coalition forces would learn to defend themselves rather than relying permanently on human protection. This is temporary, Stone emphasized during the signing ceremony. We are not your guardians forever. We are your teachers until you can stand alone. Training began immediately. Human instructors arrived on coalition worlds, bringing with them equipment, tactics, and harsh reality. Coalition volunteers, used to ceremonial military service, discovered what real combat preparation meant. Recruit training on the Trill homeworld looked nothing like traditional coalition programs. Human drill instructors pushed volunteers to physical and mental limits. They ran simulations showing Ravager attacks, forcing coalition trainees to make split-second life-or-death decisions. Many failed. Some quit. But those who remained began to understand what combat truly required. Again, Sergeant Davis barked at a group of exhausted Trill soldiers. The human woman stood barely half their height but commanded absolute authority. You died again, all of you, because you hesitated, because you questioned, because you thought about protocol instead of survival. The Ravagers will not wait for you to file proper reports. The training was brutal, unforgiving, and necessary. Coalition volunteers learned to shoot accurately, move tactically, and respond instantly to threats. They learned that hesitation killed, that mercy toward Ravagers meant death, that survival required ruthless efficiency. Vorn underwent the same training despite his rank. He crawled through mud alongside young recruits, failed simulation after simulation, and slowly rebuilt himself into something harder. The commander who confidently attacked a human warship months ago seemed like a different person, naive and foolish. Meanwhile, human engineers worked with coalition scientists to upgrade defensive systems. Coalition manufacturing, designed for efficiency and comfort, was retooled for military production. Factories that built transport ships began producing warships. Research stations focused on weapons development. Agricultural worlds increased output to feed a mobilizing civilization. The transformation was painful. Coalition culture valued peace, cooperation, and gentle progress. Suddenly, they were building weapons, training soldiers, and preparing for war. Many citizens protested. Some called it a betrayal of coalition values. Others argued that survival mattered more than philosophy. Stone addressed these concerns during a public broadcast to coalition worlds. "I understand your fear. War is terrible. It destroys lives, breaks families, and leaves scars that never truly heal. Humanity knows this better than anyone. We have fought more wars than we can count, lost more people than I can comprehend, and carry the weight of those losses every day." Her image filled screens across coalition space. "But I will tell you something about war that your peaceful culture never learned. Sometimes fighting is the only path to survival. Sometimes the choice is not between peace and war, but between dying peacefully or dying fighting. The Ravagers will not respect your philosophy. They will not admire your commitment to peace. They will consume you and move on." She paused, letting the words sink in. "You have 8 months to decide who you want to be. Do you want to be the civilization that maintained its principles while being devoured? Or do you want to be the civilization that learned to fight, survived, and rebuilt something better afterward? There is no shame in choosing survival." Public opinion shifted slowly. Protest decreased as people saw the evidence, watched the training footage, and understood the threat. The coalition had always prided itself on rational decision-making. When presented with data, they followed logic to its conclusion. The logic here was inescapable. 3 months into the alliance, the first joint military exercises began. Coalition ships, newly equipped with human weapons and defensive systems, trained alongside human fleets. The difference was stark. Where coalition vessels once moved in parade formations, they now practiced combat maneuvers. Where ceremonial weapons once decorated hulls, functional armaments now bristled. Vorn commanded a mixed task force during these exercises. Human advisors sat at every station on his bridge, teaching coalition officers to think like warriors rather than bureaucrats. The exercises were humbling. Coalition forces lost repeatedly to simulated Ravager attacks. "You are thinking like prey," Commander Harris told Vorn after a particularly bad simulation. The human officer pulled up tactical displays, showing coalition mistakes. "You react to threats instead of anticipating them. You defend positions instead of seizing initiative. You wait for orders instead of making decisions." "We were taught to follow procedure," Vorn replied. "Procedure gets you killed," Harris said bluntly. "The Ravagers do not care about your protocols. They swarm weak points, exploit hesitation, and overwhelm cautious defenders. You need to become aggressive, unpredictable, and willing to take risks." The lessons continued. Coalition forces learned to think offensively, to strike first, to treat combat as a continuous flow rather than separate actions. It went against everything their culture taught, but necessity drove adaptation. By month 4, coalition units began winning simulations. Not consistently, but enough to show progress. Vorn's task force destroyed a simulated Ravager scout force with minimal losses. The victory was small but significant. It proved coalition species could learn, could adapt, could become what they needed to be. Stone watched the simulation results and allowed herself a small smile. "They are getting better." "Not fast enough," Harris replied. "We have 4 months left and they are still making basic mistakes." "They will be ready," Stone said with more confidence than she felt. "They have to be." Defense stations took shape at strategic points throughout coalition space. Massive structures combining human firepower with coalition manufacturing efficiency. Each station could hold off a Ravager swarm long enough for reinforcements to arrive. Each represented a fortress in the coming storm. 8 months passed faster than anyone wanted. The transformation was incomplete but undeniable. Coalition species who never considered violence now trained daily for combat. Worlds that produced luxury goods now manufactured weapons. A civilization built on peace prepared for war with grim determination. Vorn stood on his flagship bridge, studying the tactical display. His ship barely resembled the vessel that confronted Stone months ago. Human weapons replaced decorative systems. Advanced sensors provided real-time battlefield awareness. His crew wore combat armor instead of ceremonial uniforms. They were ready, or as ready as they could be. All defense stations report operational status, Prin announced. His voice carried none of the nervousness that once defined him. Training had hardened them all. The defense network represented a miracle of cooperation. 40 stations positioned throughout coalition space, each one a fortress capable of independent action. Human and coalition crews worked together, their differences blending into unified purpose. Cultural barriers that seemed insurmountable 8 months ago had dissolved under shared necessity. Captain Stone sends her regards, the communication officer said. The human fleet is in position at coordinates Alpha 7. Vorn activated the fleet-wide channel. His combined force included 60 coalition warships and 30 human vessels. Not enough to guarantee victory, but enough to make the Ravagers pay for every system they tried to take. All ships, this is Commander Vorn, he began. His voice reached thousands of crew members across both fleets. 8 months ago, we were strangers. We met as potential enemies. Captain Stone and her fleet showed us mercy when they could have destroyed us. They offered alliance when they could have abandoned us. They taught us to fight when our own culture forgot how. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. Today we face the Ravagers together. Today we prove that the alliance was more than convenience. Today we show the galaxy that cooperation is stronger than isolation. Stand ready, stand together, and remember what we fight for. Coalition crews cheered. Human crews maintained professional silence, but Vorn saw approval in their eyes. The speech was simple, honest, and exactly what both sides needed to hear. Long-range sensors detected massive spatial distortions at the edge of coalition territory. The moment had arrived. Ravager ships began emerging from whatever dark path they traveled, dropping into normal space like nightmares made real. The Ravager fleet was enormous. 300 biological vessels, each one a living nightmare of twisted organic material. They moved with coordinated purpose, flowing through space like schools of predatory fish. Smaller organisms swarmed around larger vessels, creating a cloud of death that blocked sensors and disrupted targeting. Ravagers are deploying spore clouds, the science officer reported. Standard Ravager tactics. They will seed every nearby system if we allow them to spread. Launch interceptor drones, Vorn ordered. Coalition manufacturing had produced thousands of small autonomous units designed to counter Ravager spores. The drones streaked forward, engaging the biological swarm with weapons specifically calibrated to destroy organic material. The battle began at extreme range. Human warships opened fire first, their massive railguns hurling projectiles at relativistic speeds. Coalition ships added their own firepower, upgraded weapons proving their worth. The combined barrage tore into the Ravager formation, destroying dozens of vessels in the opening salvo. But the Ravagers kept coming. They did not retreat, did not hesitate, did not fear. Loss meant nothing to a swarm. For every vessel destroyed, 2 more pushed forward. The battle became a brutal exchange of fire and death. Defense Station 3 reports heavy engagement, Prin announced. They request reinforcement. Send Battle Group 7, Vorn ordered. Tell them to hold that position at all costs. The station fought desperately against a concentrated Ravager assault. Coalition crews who trained for months put their lessons into practice. They anticipated attacks, struck weak points, and coordinated fire with devastating efficiency. The station held despite overwhelming numbers. Captain Stone's voice cut through the tactical channel. All forces, execute pattern Delta, draw them into the kill zone. Human and coalition ships executed the maneuver perfectly. They fell back in apparent retreat, luring the Ravagers toward prepared defensive positions. The swarm, driven by mindless hunger, followed directly into the trap. Defense stations opened fire simultaneously. Overlapping fields of destruction caught the Ravagers in a vice. The biological ships tried to scatter, but coordinated fire prevented escape. Hundreds died in minutes, their organic hulls unable to withstand concentrated firepower. "They are adapting," Stone warned, "splitting into smaller groups. Do not let them separate our forces." The warning came just in time. Remaining Ravagers abandoned mass tactics, dividing into independent units that struck at weak points. Coalition forces struggled to respond until training took over. Unit commanders made independent decisions, covering each other without waiting for orders. The rigid hierarchy that once defined coalition military dissolved into fluid cooperation. Hour after hour the battle raged. Ships on both sides took damage. Some coalition vessels fell, their crews dying to protect worlds they would never see. Human ships absorbed terrible punishment, their superior armor allowing them to fight long past when coalition vessels would have failed. Vorn's flagship shuddered under Ravager attack. Biological weapons ate through armor plating, spores attempting to breach the hull. Damage control teams fought fires and sealed breaches while the ship continued firing. No one panicked. No one fled. They had trained for this. "Final Ravager command vessel detected," the tactical officer reported. "Coordinates transmitted to all units." Stone's voice rang across the fleet. "All ships concentrate fire, end this." Every vessel in the combined fleet turned toward the massive Ravager command ship. It was 3 times larger than anything else in their formation, a bloated nightmare of organic technology. The fleet fired as one. Human railguns, coalition plasma cannons, missile swarms, energy weapons, everything they possessed converged on a single target. The Ravager command ship tried to escape, but coordinated fire prevented movement. Its hull cracked, split, and finally exploded in a shower of biological debris. The remaining Ravagers, losing coordination, became easy targets. Within an hour, the battle ended. Silence filled the fleet channels. Crews stared at their displays, barely believing they survived. Coalition forces had faced the Ravagers and won. The victory cost them dearly, but they won. "Damage reports coming in," Prin said quietly. 15 coalition ships lost. 7 human vessels heavily damaged. Defense Station 3 is gone. Total casualties approximately 40,000. The numbers hurt. 40,000 lives lost in a single battle. But Vorn remembered Stone's words about humanity losing 900 billion. This was only the beginning. "Send message to all surviving ships," Vorn ordered. "Well done, rest while you can, more will come." Stone's image appeared on his display. She looked exhausted but satisfied. "Commander Vorn, your forces fought well. The coalition proved itself today." "We learned from the best," Vorn replied. "Thank you, Captain, for everything." "Thank us by staying ready," Stone said. "This was one fleet. The Ravagers have dozens more. The war is not over." "No," Vorn agreed, "but we are not alone anymore. We stand together." The alliance had been forged in desperation and proven in battle. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what it needed.